we doing, everybody? We're here on Wednesday night, July 3rd, getting ready for a great show. We were talking earlier with JP here from Passyunk Bar, and what we had going on pre-show was if it's anything, we're going to have a great show here tonight. So we're excited to have JP here with us from Passyunk.
Yeah, we're honored. This is absolutely what we've been waiting for, to have to have something like this, and I'm excited to talk Philly sports. The pregame for us was just a snippet of what I don't know that we need to ask any questions. Maybe we could just let JP go. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is special for us. And JP, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on. I know John was excited when he got back from London. I got to enjoy it, on television, and maybe I don't even know where to start with this. I've got so many questions, but I don't know in what degree I should ask them. You know what I mean? But what was it like for you? What was the planning of all this? Knowing how it was gonna come full circle for you.
Well, first of all, guys, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the interest you have in us. It means a lot that people back home support what we're doing, and so we love when people back home take an interest and want to hear a little bit about what we're doing over here, because I think we think what we're doing over here is important, and we love when people back home share that feeling as well. In terms of the experience that we've had over the last couple of weeks, having Philadelphia descend on London, having everything that we've built in the last 6 years, be experienced by the people that we built it to sort of honor, and have them come here and validate it as legit and the kind of place that means a lot to them, was sort of like this emotional circle completed for us. This was always a bit of a labor of love. This was always a bit of an idea that grew out of our cultural inheritance, our love for city, our love for sports, our love for our community back home. And we thought it was so important that we decided to try and create a business to share it with the world. And in our instance, the world started in a mega metropolitan city like London. And thankfully, we've started to get some traction here. We often joke in our sort of managerial meetings when we assess what's going on with our business as our business is growing. Like, who knew that that the people of London needed this bit of Americana and this bit of specific cultural Philadelphia Americana so much in their lives before we gave it to them. But it turns out they needed it, and they needed it bad. They really appreciate it, and they thank us every day for bringing it to them. And to have the people of Philly come over as part of the Philadelphia Phillies contingent that descended on the city, and basically get behind us and what we're doing here and our mission that we're battling every day was really special. And I was telling you guys earlier, in the pregame, that we've got great relationships with Major League Baseball, and we've had great relationships with Major League Baseball over here for years. And in recapping the weekend, I followed up with some of my contacts, and they just couldn't believe how Philly turned out. It was like unlike anything they've ever seen here before, and all the games they've done here in the last couple of years. And I said, look, guys, I've been telling you this for years. I've been telling you that I could build a business on the back of how interesting this culture is and how emotionally connected this culture is. And now you've seen it firsthand. And I think you should really consider continuing this program of running games here and running games across Europe. But I think you need to consider having the Philadelphia Phillies as your team in residence, and other teams can come over and play the Phillies as your team in residence, because the Phillies the Philadelphia people will turn out to support that.
Yeah, That's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. What on a daily schedule, put the whole Philly scene aside for a minute. What's it like? Business wise. Like, you run events. I mean, obviously you have a lot of soccer and other sports, but what's it like to run a daily operation?
So that's a good question. I mean, it's a bit of a harebrained concept, quite honestly. But many years ago, I think I was in business school when I first had the idea. I was working in a large corporation at the time, and I didn't see that I wanted to do that forever. And I also saw that if I didn't get out of it relatively soon, at the time when I was considering this, that I could be stuck in it. It could be just too lucrative to get out of, right? My wife, who she and I came over to London 16 years ago together. We weren't married then, but we sort of built a life here, and she's from just outside of Philly, just west of Philly, in central Pennsylvania, Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
We'd always lament the fact that, like, there weren't dive bars around. We always lament the fact that there was this huge appetite for Americana. I did some research on this. There's demonstrable appetite for Americana, but it was never really fulfilled in any way that was very meaningful. It was always very general. It was always very broad brush. It was always very jingoistic. And we thought, well, there's this huge demand for Americana. This concept of American dive bars don't really exist here. I come from South Philly Italian roots, and so I was always thinking about the fact that, like, I couldn't get a hoagie, I couldn't get a cheesesteak, and I'm thinking, this is odd, because London's a city of 9 million people, like, and it's one of the most diverse cities on the planet, and you can't get a hoagie. Like, what's that all about? And so I started talking to my friends and thinking, like, when I say Philadelphia to you, what does that mean? And my friends would respond, cream cheese. And I'm like, what do you mean cream cheese? Like, what about a city in America? Like, basically all these ideas start coming together. No dive bars, no Italian-American fusion, South Philly classics, no concept of the importance of Philadelphia as a city, as a culture. And these concepts start coming together, and they ultimately fuse in the idea that became, Passion. And I remember going to my wife. She was 7 months pregnant with our first child. And I said, so this corporate job that I have now, which I'm overcompensated for, and I don't work very hard to do. Imagine if I left that and I started working on this concept of creating Philadelphia dive bars in London, because we think there might be an opportunity and people might respond to that. What do you think? Like, do you think we should do that? Because I don't really want to do the corporate job anymore. And she looked at me very, very, very earnestly, our child in her belly, and she says, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that." Right. And so literally that week, I quit my corporate job, and I started work on the project that ultimately became Passyunk. And I'll tell you, the general hunch that we had, that that this significant demand for Americana was going unrequited by really poor attempts at presenting what is Americana, was largely accurate. And this idea that, like, it doesn't have to be Philadelphia Americana. Philadelphia just happens to be what I know and what my cultural inheritance is. But this idea that, like, by drilling down into any culture and providing people sort of the emotional hooks to connect into, you can build something viable that people can get really charged up about. And we were, I think, more right than wrong in our assessment of the gap in the market here in London, where the demand for Americana was significant but was going unfulfilled. And we said, well, we're gonna fill that gap with our version of Philadelphia Americana, and we think people are going to respond emotionally to it. And thankfully, we were mostly right. And so we went from having no experience in the hospitality space at all. Like, literally, it's not like I come from a family of restaurateurs. I know nothing about this. I knew nothing about this. And to this day, I'm not really an accomplished hospitality operator. I'm just a guy with an idea. but we went from being total outsiders in a hyper competitive market like London to being widely regarded as the best, the best American concept in the country, and I would argue even in Europe at this point. And that's super gratifying, and that says more about, I think, the general merit of the idea, but more than the merit of the idea, the ability of us over time to coalesce a group of people to execute on that concept and deliver that concept in a way that has largely resonated with a lot of people that were looking for something like this.
Yeah.
How long did that take you to get that traction going once you had the plan to get started?
It's a great question. Well, a lot of it had to do with it. The short answer is it took a couple of years from the idea of like, maybe there's something we can do here, to the idea of like, I believe I can serve cheesesteaks and hoagies that are legit enough to not get me kicked out of the Sons of Philadelphia, Sons of Italy, Philadelphia chapter. Where there was a big gap, and there was a big gap in time because like the infrastructure didn't exist to deliver it. I mean, and you're in Philly, you want to make yourself a cheesesteak, you go down to the Acme, you get yourself an Amoroso roll, you buy yourself some of the lunch meats and some of the fixings, and bang, you're off. And then if you generally have an idea of what you're going to do, you can make yourself a reasonable hoagie, right? That wasn't the case here. So the first sort of year and a half was, building a supplier base, building recipes from scratch, testing recipes, figuring out bread recipes, figuring out a vendor base that could support a business like this, piecing it all together, then figuring out if it all was economically viable, testing it, market testing it. And then when we thought we had something that we could reasonably deliver in a way that was economically viable, it was like, okay, well, let me see if I can find anyone to give me money for this idiotic concept. And so I started going around cap in hand to my business school friends, who was guys who I was really good friends with, who fundamentally believed in me as a human being. And I started peddling this idea of like opening Philadelphia dive bars around London. And they were like, we don't even know what the hell you're talking about, but like, we like you enough, and we'll give you some money to do this. And I think I raised £250,000 to open the first site, the original site that I'm sitting in right now, which was really just a pilot of the concept, really test the concept, see if this would work. This was 2 years downstream from when I really started working on the project. And in March 2018, the original tiny version of the concept opened, very imperfectly, like I said, because we came at this from having no experience whatsoever. But fundamentally, the concept, very quickly resonated with the buying public. And 6 months into it, we were a bit of a cult classic, and that cult classic status propelled us long enough to the point where like we gained enough critical mass and we gained enough notoriety to be like, well, these guys actually have something special going on here. And then by the end of the first year, I think it was quite clear that like we weren't going to die immediately as a concept and as a business, and that we had something viable, and we just had to figure out a way to professionalize it, scale it, and grow it. And we're still very much in that process, but we're a much bigger company now, and we have a lot more in the way of resource to commit to this process. But I reflect back on it, and ignorance is truly bliss. I mean, if you were thinking reasonably about the situation, like, you would have never done what we did.
Right.
Never done what we did. It was completely idiotic. But somehow we made it work out of sheer force of will and out of, sheer love of what it was we were trying to do, really.
But you had the confidence, coming from Philly, right? You had that, Philly people get a bad rap, but, deep down inside, there's something going on, right? And you had a vision. You had a vision for this whole thing. And, much like myself, I mean, I did the same thing 30 years ago, walking away from a really good job to open my own business. And when you get that vision, right, you don't let anything stand in your way. You used your resources, your people that you knew were willing to stand behind you and make this become reality. I mean, what's the thoughts now when you meet with these people and your partners and managers and in growing the business? I mean, is there a growth pattern here, or have you guys peaked where you want to be?
Well, so to the first point, Carl, when I would ask friends early on about Philadelphia, and they'd tell me cream cheese was the first thing that came to their mind. The inherent inferiority complex that you have when you're associated with the city of Philadelphia kicked in immediately, right? This inferiority complex that comes from the fact that you're about 60 miles south of New York and the financial capital of the world, and 90 miles north of Washington, the political power capital of the world. And Philadelphia is sort of stuck in the middle, right? This really important place in its own regard, but like struggles to define itself in this power vacuum that exists on both sides of it, right? So it was the inferiority complex that kicked in that naturally all of us have who are associated with Philadelphia. And I'm like, this is, I've been wronged on a very personal level here, and I need to figure out how to right this. And then it became this idea of, we're going to take advantage of the demand that exists in the market, and we're going to build this business that means a lot to people who didn't even know it would mean something to them at some point. And we built a really viable enterprise. And no, I don't think we've peaked. To answer the question specifically, I mean, we're very ambitious about what we want to do with this business. We're very ambitious about the growth plan we have for this business, which we're executing every day. I mean, I was running around London today, looking at additional sites. We have a site in the pipeline. We're expanding our site in Waterloo section of London. We're adding another 2,500 square foot to that site, which will open in the next 6 weeks. We're adding another bar in the Kensington section of London and West London, which will open in October. We're looking at business opportunities across Europe and the Middle East now. So we have a lot of ambition for this business. And we're in full growth mode right now.
Nice.
We believe what we're doing is important. We believe that we've tapped into something, not only about Philadelphia, but about like this idea that America, like all countries, it only means something when you drill down into the culture. And America, like all countries, is regional, it's ethnic, it's idiosyncratic, right? It's a bit weird, right? And, when you drill down into these like small subsections of it, it's interesting and it's emotional and it's compelling, right? And and conversely, if you sort of like float up at this high level, it's like kind of boring and it's kind of boilerplate. And we're not suggesting that the Philadelphia interpretation is the be all and end all, or is even the most compelling you can come up with. But it's interesting, and it's interesting for people who are interested in Americana. And as long as there's those people out there, and as long as I have people that want to join me on this journey, we're growing this business. We summarize what we're doing in bringing Philly to the world. I mean, we're very serious about that mission at this point. Nice. And we're gonna go as long as we have the energy to go. And we're going to enlist the partnership of as many people in the process of doing that as we can, because we think this is an important thing. It means a lot to us, and I mean we're more committed than we could be at this point. So it's been a fun journey, but there's a lot more to do, and we've made a lot of progress thus far, but there's like so much more we can do. So we're focused on the future, focused on growing, focused on expanding the concept across Europe and even potentially further afield.
Yeah, for sure. John, what do you got?
Like you were saying earlier, like seeing the culture change. How much have you seen that change in as far as you guys, like you said, aren't baseball people, so to become baseball fans, that you were just talking about, before the show, about listening to Harry Callis and Richie Ashburn on the radio back at home with your brother, and how much do you see the people of London becoming baseball fans, becoming football fans, and different sports fans because of your bar, and the Philadelphia area itself?
So, I mean, I'll take that question in two parts, and it's a good question, John. The impact we've had on interest in Americana, because what we do well, has been, I mean, huge. And it's noticeable. The Philadelphia Philly fan group in the UK is the largest Major League Baseball fan group in the UK, right? I'd like to think we had something to do with that, and I believe we did have something to do with that. The Philadelphia Eagle fan group, right, is the largest in the UK. I'd like to think we have something to do with that. You can't get a seat in any of our venues, increasingly, during an NFL weekend, even during a college football weekend. You can't get a seat in any of our venues,
Okay.
right? We have become we started as a very Philly focused thing, and we are this Philly focused thing. We're very proud of that, right? But because we bothered to drill down deep into that, like, we've become this arbiter of like what is and what isn't legitimate Americana. And for anyone who's interested in engaging in that, with there's tens of thousands, if not millions, of people in a city like London who are, like, we've become the place to be. Tomorrow's July 4th. Good luck getting into any of our venues. We are the place to be tomorrow on July 4th, right?
Yeah.
And when I think about like July 4th before Passyunk existed, the shit that like people had served up to them in London, and then like the places that they would go and the places that I would go, and like largely be disappointed, like that was all like the stimulus that like Passyunk is a reaction to that, right? And
Yeah.
the fact that like I've been involved in building this thing now that has essentially become, tomorrow is one of the most important days on the American calendar, and whether you're American or whether you're an Americanophile, right? Like, all you want to do is party at Passyunk tomorrow. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing accomplishment, right?
It is. Yeah, I was going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. About the 4th of July tomorrow, because you had the video that we showed on our Facebook page about the 4th of July. It looked like you guys had a lot of fun there, and it's not a London thing. It's a Philadelphia, it's a American thing, type of thing. So for you guys to bring that over there and have everybody else experience it, that's pretty cool.
With getting off track here a little bit, without giving away any trade secrets, and you don't have to answer it directly. How difficult was it to, put the quality food together, the recipe, build the sandwiches and build, a menu? How was that probably your biggest, run at this and making this happen? Because when people drink, let's face it, when they drink, they want to eat. So, the two kind of go hand in hand. So how difficult was that?
I mean, it's probably the hardest part in the beginning. Maybe I don't have a hospitality background. I'm not a trained chef. I learned in the Italian kitchens of my mother and my grandmother, right? Like, what sort of good cooking is and how you piece it all together. So it's a lot of it's very instinctual. A lot of it's sort of, sort of inherited over time by experience. But it was difficult. I mean, I in the beginning, I remember spending sort of 6 months trying to get the bread right. Because one of the first things a Philly person will come in and do, and when you give them a cheesesteak or give them a hoagie, they're like, "Well, what about the bread? Where'd you get this bread? This bread's not right."
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be one of the biggest hurdles. So I spent 6 months developing the bread. You couldn't get cheese whiz in Europe, right? Because of food regulations. So we had to re-engineer that. Our buffalo wing sauce, like we make from scratch, like literally everything we make from scratch. And the first 2 years of the business was engineering these recipes, these bits that we thought would be critical to create products that would deliver on the promise of the brand, right? But the important point about the Passion brand in general is that, like, I never wanted people. I wanted people to love our food. I wanted people to look like, really, I want to go have a cheesesteak, so I'll go to Passion. I want to go have a hoagie, I'll go to Passion. I want to go eat some amazing buffalo wings, I'll go to Passion, right? I wanted them to feel great about the food, but I never wanted them to obsess about the food to the point that the brand became very product centric, right? I wanted the brand to be experiential. I wanted them to feel like when they stepped into our venues, they were disappearing into into a place they hadn't considered before. If they were Americana-centric Europeans or Americana-curious Europeans, or if they were American expats, I wanted them to disappear into the place they felt very comfortable being, right?
Sure.
And originally when I was conceiving the brand in this way, I was thinking, maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I'm like, this is being too nuanced, right? Maybe like no one's really going to get it, and they're either going to come or they're not going to come for the cheesesteaks, right? But it turns out that, like, thankfully, I wasn't being overly nuanced. And, a couple of years ago, National Geographic wrote an article about, the 5 best places, the 5 best bars that you can go to in London that transport you to another place. And Pashank was one of those bars. And I was like, this was my original concept for the brand, was that, like, it was going to be this experiential place that people disappear into, right? And in the process of disappearing into it, you get amazing food, right? You get amazing, honest, legitimate food, but you also get this amazing service, and the shit you see on the television screens and the stuff you see on the walls, everything reinforces the promise that the brand is making to you, right? Which is this experiential sort of immersion into a very unique form of Americana, right? That perhaps you haven't considered before, perhaps you had considered before, but you're going to get it. And, it was bringing all of those pieces together. So, like, I obsessed about the actual product that we serve, the food products that we serve, only because I was obsessed about making sure that there was coherence in this total brand experience. And if there was dissonance when it came to, like, that is not a cheesesteak or that is not a hoagie, that was going to be a big problem, because that would be the brand falling down on one of the key promises that we were making to you. The first stage was obsessing about the products and making sure we could deliver the products via a supply chain that was economically sustainable. And then it was about building the cultural experiential concept around it, and then fusing it all as like one experience to people.
Yeah, nice. Very good. Johnny, what do you got?
What about tell us a little bit about that experience with the Phillies coaches coming in on was it Thursday, I believe it was, hanging out with you guys, and was that even planned prior, like the tailgate was, or was that just something that just came about?
Well, that was awesome, obviously. And we've got, deep relationships with the Phillies organization, and the Phillies organization has been very supportive of us, as have other organizations back in Philadelphia, and we appreciate that. But that was totally unannounced. I know the Phillies had an official sort of team event that Thursday evening. They flew in Thursday morning, and they had an official sort of dinner and team event that evening. And it was basically just a couple of the guys straggling out, looking for a bit of mischief in the London night. And I know that people know about us, obviously, back in Philly. I know the Phillies organization obviously knows a lot about us. And I think a couple of the coaches just had their curiosity piqued. They were probably suffering from a bit of jet lag. They weren't so tired yet. And they thought maybe venturing out into the city would be a good idea. And they're like, well, just go to Passion and see what's going on there. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some people there.
Right.
And I mean, of course, the venue they rocked up to was packed. They turned up totally unannounced, and literally had this like moment of people turning around, like, Rob just looks like any one of us.
Yeah.
he's like the dude on the street, right?
Yep.
And he like starts walking through the venue, and people just, there's like slow wave of realization as this moment's happening. They're like, hold on a sec, is that Rob Thompson? And like, is he really in the venue? And then people slowly realizing it was him, right?
Yeah.
So totally unannounced. totally cool by them. They knew about us. They were looking for something else to do, and they thought, we'll just rock up to Passyunk and have a quiet beer. And I guess it wasn't anything but a quiet beer, but they still had a great time with us. And then they felt the love of the fans, and they got to really engage with the fans on a level that they probably don't often get to do back in Philly.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I don't.
Really, really intimate, where they're literally behind the bar pouring beers for fans and hanging out and having drinks with the fans. They spent like 2 hours in the venue, Rob and his coaching staff, which just chatting to fans. A lot of the fans in the venue at the time were English too, like English baseball fans. These are people who supported the Phillies, would stay up till all night, all hours in the summer, every night, right, watching the Phillies. Never had any dream they would come in contact with the mothership, and the mothership comes to them, right? Like, what an experience that is.
Yeah, that had to be cool.
That is, that's so awesome for you, and to win at that level, in your spot, you know what I mean, is just, that's a win for everybody in my book, so.
Yeah, they definitely don't get that experience here in Philadelphia. I mean, once in a while, Xfinity Live, the players will go after the games, but I guess Rob Thompson did go one time, but they're off, but off the side a little bit.
They seemed like genuinely, interested. You know what I mean, and they weren't afraid to be mobbed by people. You know what I mean? And it just seemed like it was the timing was perfect. It kind of all came together, and that's why, we asked about it, and, we thought maybe
guys, what I loved about that experience was they were as curious about Passyunk as anyone else who was coming to Passyunk for the first time, right? They wanted to know what this was all about. Like, they wanted to understand if it was legit or not, right? And they got their answer, but like, they came to Passyunk because they were as curious as anyone else who came to Passyunk that night, right? Who had never been to Passyunk before.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what the brand is all about.
Yeah. Did that help? And I don't mean to be, rude or ignorant, but did that kind of validate things for you, with them showing up as a group like that?
Well, look, whenever that happens, it means a lot to a brand like ours. And, the impact of Rob and his coaching staff showing up meant a lot to us. I don't know if the brand so much needed validation at that point. Like, we were pretty much validated at that point, but it meant like, the Phillies as an organization,
right?
Being seen to support us,
yep.
Sends a signal to the city. It sends a signal to the fan base. It sends a signal to all of the fans over here. Like I said, who have never had contact with the mothership, never imagined they'd have ever have contact with the mothership. That, like, these guys are doing good stuff. These guys are doing important stuff. These guys are good people to be associated with.
Yep.
To the extent it meant anything to us, it was all about reinforcing, the core tenets of the brand from the very beginning, which is this is legit, this is experiential, this is a cultural sort of transmission. And when an organization that's like so key to the cultural fabric of a city like Philadelphia physically turns up in your venue and says, we are here to participate in this cultural exchange, I mean, that's everything you're looking for.
Sure.
Especially without being unannounced, and also not being, trying to pull the privilege card, and security. They were all there, just being one
literally walked in the front door like anyone else, and totally unassuming, right?
Right.
Only like literally, I mean, you might have seen the videos on social media. Literally people turning around being like, "That's Rob Thompson."
Yeah.
Yeah.
How cool is it being at the bar for like the playoff games in the World Series? Getting all the people there in London watching those games.
It's the greatest, man. It's the greatest vibe. It's the greatest vibe. Particularly because these games are happening in the middle of the night, typically.
Right. Yeah. For you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be packing venues in the middle of the night. And there's some American expats there for sure, but like where a large majority of the people are people who are not, natural, and by natural I mean they didn't grow up with the sport of baseball, right?
Yeah.
Or the sport of American football for that matter. Packing your venues enthusiastically in the middle of the night when they know they have to report to work at 8 o'clock the next day, and they know that if they're lucky, they'll get home and be able to put their head on their pillow for an hour before they have to get up and go to work, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps still slightly inebriated. It means a lot, man. It means that like we're cutting through. Like that's emotion. Emotion is driving those decisions, right? Like the best kind of emotion, like the emotion that builds community, the emotion that builds culture, right? The best kind of emotion, and those are the highlights of the Pashank years, is when you have people coming to you willing to like share that level of emotion with you, because that's all this business has been for us, is emotion.
Now you have 3 locations, correct?
Yeah, we have 3 locations. Like I said, we're expanding one of the locations, making it a bit bigger, and then we're adding a 4th before the end of this year, and we're actively looking to add more. We're in talks to add maybe 1 or 2 more in London, and a couple more across Europe as well right now.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's a tricky question. Maybe the one I'm in, because without the one I'm in, I mean, it's the original. It's small. It's very imperfect in many ways, but this was the first time I was ever able to, in reality, articulate what I had in my head for what I wanted to do.
Sure.
Before this site existed, it was always bits and pieces of what I imagined, but it was never the full coming together of the vision I had in my head for what I wanted this business to be. And for as imperfect as the site was, and for as imperfectly as we operated this site, certainly in the beginning, I think we do a much better job of it now. And for as cash constrained as we were in the beginning and not really knowing what we were doing, this site means a lot to me, because it was the first time I was ever able to look up and look around after many years of committing my life to doing this and saying like, yeah, this is broadly what I imagined this would look like. And this then created the template for everything that's come after it. So I'm eternally grateful to this site for being a manifestation of everything I imagined we could create, and then this being the jumping off point from everything that's happened subsequently.
Yeah.
And your location now is what, Cleveland Street? Is that where?
I'm in Cleveland Street in Fitzrovia in the West End. This is very, very much central London.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how do people? Obviously, they found out about Pashank, but do you get a lot of people who visit you and bring you gifts and memorabilia to hang up in your bars and whatnot? Is that how a lot of this stuff is obtained?
I mean, literally everything you see behind me, everything I'm looking at here, everything in all of our venues, it's all been donated.
Nice.
And this is exactly what we want. Like, it's all been donated because this is this whole, the essence of this brand is a bit of a community effort. And I think that in the beginning we did it well enough where we sort of indicated to people that was the case. And literally people started showing up with stuff, and we started receiving, packages in the mail from back home saying, here's my band jacket. Can you hang this up? We started, this whole thing you can see behind. Well, so first of all, this signed picture of Nick Foles was a gift. All the dollar bills you see around me, all our contributions from our guests. They want to be a part of the venues. They want to leave something behind. They want to know that they're a part of building and contributing to the community that we've created. And it's sort of taken on a life of its own. I mean, as it is right now, we have way more stuff than we can display. So like we need to open new venues just so we can display all the stuff that people have given us.
That's great.
It's an amazing situation to be in. It's like,
it's
really an amazing, because when I remember back to the early stages of it, it was me by myself, wondering if this idea would ever see the light of day. to basically have stuff now like arriving regularly and have a bank of stuff that we don't even have room for right now. We need to open more venues. Like really means a lot.
That's awesome.
We'll,
That's so good.
we'll get you a T-shirt for this Fans View that you can hang up out
Please
there.
send me
Absolutely.
something.
Absolutely, we will.
Yeah, we'll get that address. We'll get a package out to you for sure. But that's this conversation could go on for hours. But I'm just curious. I mean, do you have a other than your opening, which I'm sure was super special? Do you have a night, that really sticks out in your mind that that you can really look back to and say, we did it. You can hug your wife, you can hug your kids, you can hug your business partners, and say, this is what we accomplished. This is what we did. Do you have that night?
I mean, it's a great question. Well, it's a funny one. My wife a couple days ago, maybe about a week ago, started getting messages from friends she'd never heard from in a long time back in America, right? And the messages were linked to to an article where I had appeared in People magazine, and what we had done here was getting covered in People magazine. And my wife had friends sending her, the photo that appeared in People magazine with the caption that they created, "Sexiest man alive," and and I think that was, my wife has always been the ultimate believer. She has never worked directly in the business, but she was the one that gave me the go ahead when she was 7 months pregnant. She was the one who bankrolled the family as I was trying to get this thing up off the ground. If there ever were a co-founder, she is a co-founder in this because she believed from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But to see people she hasn't, seen or spoken to in many years, come to her with an article from People magazine featuring her husband's business that wouldn't have been possible if she didn't believe from the very beginning and didn't support from the very beginning was, truly gratifying.
Awesome.
And that's when it gets a bit emotional, and that's also when you understand the extent to which you're really reaching people. And in the process of reaching people, you're really connecting back with yourself in a way that you never expected to connect back to yourself on an emotional level. And as I said at the beginning of this conversation, guys, this was an idiotic idea, and idiotic idea that we decided to launch in one of the most competitive hospitality marketplaces in the world. And we've gone on to demonstrate that we're one of the best of our kind. And it suggests that it's compelling. It suggests that we're doing something right. And it suggests, most importantly, that there's a lot of people who have been involved in this project. Person number one, my wife, who have believed without any reason to believe that this was worth doing. And I'm just psyched when people can see that many people at large care about this.
Yeah.
Those people
sure.
in particular from the very beginning. That's how I know. So we still have a lot to do, but we've made it this far, and we don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I don't
Good
think.
for you. What has it been? 6 years, did you say?
It's been 6 years, and our plans, our business plans, were slightly delayed by the pandemic, among other things. But we're on the upswing. This brand's on the upswing, and we still have a lot of ambition. We still have a lot of energy, and we still have some goals we want to accomplish between now and when we run out of energy. And I'll tell you, when guys like you take interest in what we're doing, and guys back home want to hear the story, it's very fortifying to us. It really is. So
Yeah.
we appreciate this interest in, and this means more to us than you guys probably even appreciate. When I see an email come through from John and he's like, "We want to talk to you about this," I'm like, "Hell yeah, we'll talk about it." We're psyched that you guys give a crap. We really are.
Yeah, it's reached home. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's reached home. The whole London series, I mean, is still fresh in everyone's minds. And like you said, you're behind getting the Phillies, to be the London team, for a yearly event. I don't know that Major League Baseball would ever pull that off, but how cool would that be?
Oh, that'd be incredible.
How cool would that be?
It would break us. It would break us emotionally and physically, but we would be all on.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
All in on that.
Yeah, for sure.
And like your dream, it was a Philly thing, and you're tough. You fought through it. The battles, like you said, it wasn't easy, but you had that dream, and that's what kept you going to it. And it wasn't that foolish of an idea, because you were making it into a great event and a place to be. So keep it up.
Well, I'll tell you what, and on that point, John, I mean, what really kept me going is that at every point where you think, like, you know what, maybe this isn't worth it, I'm going to give up, you get a little bit of encouragement from a place you never thought the encouragement would come from.
Yeah.
And you just keep going and you just keep going and keep going. And this is, just even having a conversation with you guys, it's just another instance of a bit of encouragement to let us know that, like, actually we're doing something important. We're going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
It's worth the effort. So yeah, man, I mean, it hasn't always been easy, but like,
there's no business that is, right?
It feels like it's been worth it. It feels
Right.
like it's been worth it. And
sure,
to know that, like, and I talk to the guys about this in the business day in and day out. Like, we get most of the things right, and we on a daily basis, and we bring joy to people, right?
Yeah.
And people come back to us for how we make them feel, not what we actually serve them. And we'll be here a long time. Like, we're here about how we're here to make people feel joy, and make people feel happy. And I'll tell you what, in the job I had before this, it was probably, immediately more lucrative than this journey that I've been on. But I could have died tomorrow and no one would have known I would have existed.
Yeah.
And I remind my guys of that all the time. Like, you know what? You're associated with this project. This has been a really cool project. It's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. People will remember this experience, and they'll remember you for your part in the experience. And life is short, so you might as well do something that means something to people and means something to yourself.
I love the passion. That's what it's all about.
Being from Philly, I really I don't know if I live my life, but Rocky movies always are important. Like, there's always a moment, and it almost kind of comes back with your wife, being 7 months pregnant, like Adrian, telling Rocky, win, and she had the faith in him, and your wife had the faith in you to do it. And
well, it's funny now. My wife is now working to launch a business of her own.
Nice.
And I'm in a bit more of a position to support her to do that in a way that I wasn't, say, 5 years ago. And so it's funny how those responsibilities shift. But when you're doing something important, you team up with the right people, whether those people are your immediate spouses or whether those people are your friends or relations. A group of people can come together and do amazing things together. And this idea that you can be isolated and you can do great things, I don't sign up to that at all. I mean, we do more in collaborating with each other. We do more in cooperating with each other than anything I could have ever done by myself. I had the
Right.
idea, but I couldn't execute the idea. I mean, the execution has been this group effort, and
Sure.
we're bonded together as a result. Everyone who's been involved in it.
Absolutely. Now, through those journeys, who were a few of the more famous people that you've seen come through your place?
Thanks.
I didn't want to just say one, just because that probably wouldn't be fair. But a couple of the popular people that you've.
Yeah, I'd say in general, the support has been amazing, particularly from back home. We've had a lot of people of note come through over the years. We've had the mayor come through back when the Eagles were here.
Okay.
We had Brent Selleck carry the Super Bowl trophy into our original venue, the venue I'm sitting in now. We had Jay Wright come through with his family. We had Tom McCarthy come through when he was broadcasting a game in one of the football games in London.
Yep.
Most recently, we had the Kelsey brothers through as they were here, as Taylor Swift was in London and they needed a place to record their podcast. Who else has come through?
How cool was that experience? That was part of my question leading up to it.
Yeah.
To see, we saw that. So how cool was that for them to want to do it at your place?
It was awesome, and I mean, it was an obvious place for them to hang out when they were in
Right.
London. So I'm glad all the dots got connected on that. It made sense for them. It made sense for us, and we were a great venue for them to spend some time. And I know that at least Jason and his wife were really interested, knew about Passyunk, were really interested in coming to Passyunk. So I'm glad that. The excuse of being able to do the podcast here facilitated that.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I mean, the Kelsey brothers are, they're like dudes that you feel like you've known, right? They're just like they're just super grounded. Like, credit to their parents for building such amazing people. And I can't even imagine the pressure on Travis and the situation he's in dating like the biggest pop star in the universe, right? It's just added levels of pressure that would make it very difficult for me, I would think, in that situation to try and function as a normal human being, but somehow he manages because he's superhuman in that regard. But like these boys they're amazing guys. They're super well grounded. They're not really impressed with themselves at all, even though there's plenty of cause for them to be impressed with themselves.
Sure.
They associate with themselves with similar people as a result, right? There's no pretense to them whatsoever. They're just lovely, kind, generous people. The kind of people that when you interact with them, you're like, if I could be a bit more like them, like I'd be doing well for myself. And I'm glad that, like, in a world that celebrates such shit sometimes, such depressing shit sometimes, it's kind of wonderful to see the public at large react so positively to people like these guys who are just genuine, nice, honest, generous people. So I'm just like, by association, like, I guess that makes us we kind of fall into this group of people that those kinds of people want to hang out with, which means a lot for us and our brand more than, more than anything it does for us commercially. It like validates us as human beings that, like, they heard through the grapevine. We have a lot of friends in common, particularly Jason and Kylie, like back in Philly. We have a lot of friends where I know people and they know the same people. And like, it got back to them that we're like the kind of people that are worth their time to spend time with. And that's great, because having spent time with them, I'm like, they're awesome people. And if they're awesome people and they decided they want to spend time with us, that must reflect well on us as well.
That's awesome. Well, you get back to, to the daily operation, people work hard, right? They put in a full day. They want to go have a couple of beers at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And this is the welcoming spot. This is where they want to come for an hour, 2 hours, 2 beers, 3 beers, whatever it is, and shoot the shit with the guy sitting next to them or the bartender or whatever. That's what you've opened up that to everyone, not just in London, but to the whole world, because you've gained so much traction. And sports is such a big. I mean, it's just huge. They talk a lot about the American football and baseball and whatnot, but put a good game on TV and everybody will gather around.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny, Carl, you said that, like, as I was conceiving the concept way back in the day, many years ago, and I was thinking about, South Philly, Italian American fusion food, and I was thinking about the cultural sort of epicenters that are like the dive bar, the sort of working man's bar in Philadelphia, if you will. And I was thinking about like the cultural inheritance and how we want to share that. And I was thinking about creating this place, a Philly dive bar in London that does all of these things well. In doing some research, I came upon an article, I think it was in the Inquirer, and I need to find this article because I need to see if I can get in touch with the writer at some point. But it described the Philly dive bar as the kind of place you go to drink by yourself with other people. I think is the way it was described, right? Like,
there you go.
You're sort of like down and out, and you kind of want to be social, but you don't really want to be social. So I'm just going to go to the dive bar in the corner. I'm going to sit at the bar. I'm going to have my beer. I'm going to have my bourbon, and maybe someone will talk to me, even though I'm not going there to have the conversation. But I kind of maybe hoping I can go there and have a conversation with someone. I just thought it was like the greatest description, the kind of place you go to drink by yourself with other people, right?
Yep, 100%, 100%. Hey, it's in closing, I can't thank you enough. I know John orchestrated it, but it was one of the first things it was the first conversation we had when he got back. Yeah. I'm like, so how was because between you and me, JP, John doesn't drink. But I drag him along because, like you like to eat. So you're coming with me. I was like, so how was Passyunk? And I'm like, come on. I'm like, that's got to be the 24-hour party place, and I just, to have you on and to be able to pick your brain a little bit. And I know we're 5-6 hours difference in time and you're probably exhausted, what can you leave with us? You know what I mean? As far as, Philly people, what can we expect? What can we look for out of Passyunk?
Well, I can tell you this, that we're channeling the ambition of the people of Philly, and this is only the beginning of what we're trying to do here, and to the extent that we can get more people from Philly involved in what we're doing and experience firsthand what we're doing. We value that very much. We find it very, at the end of the day, we're still sort of 3,000 miles from home. And these connections back to home, we find very fortifying. I know I don't make it home as frequently as I like to. I have a young family and it's a bit tricky. But these connections back to home and to Philly are very fortifying. So we want people to be involved back home in this business. That means come visit us. That means come send us. That means send us stuff if you can't visit us. That means reach out to us, send us emails, shout out to us on social. This is a community. This is a community endeavor.
Nice.
We're just the front people in this, but we represent a whole community of people that are really important to us, and we want them to share as much in this and share as much in the enjoyment and as much in the success and the trials and tribulations, quite frankly, of this as we are, because it's been an awesome experience and it's been a great life experience, and the more the merrier. This has been a lot of fun.
Good. Johnny, closing. What do you got?
Well, as you know, Philly fans are competitive. So, which team was more rowdier at your place, the Phillies fans or the Eagles fans? When they
That's a good question.
were
We
in
were a
luck.
much smaller. We were a much smaller business when the Eagles were here.
Right.
A much smaller company. And I would probably say this Phillies crew that was here just now was a bit more rowdy and a bit more up for it. It might have been the weather was a bit nicer. It might have been the summer. It might have been the fact that there were maybe a couple thousand more of us. It might have been the fact that the team is playing historically good baseball
Yeah,
as
exactly.
well.
Yeah.
So that sort of puts a bit of pep in everyone's step. But I'll tell you what, man, Philly turned out, and it was awesome to witness. It was
That's
really
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, because you would open up just after the Super Bowl, right? In 18.
Yeah, this venue opened up March 2018. We won the Super Bowl in February 2018, and then the Eagles were here in October 2018 when Brent Zellick carried the Super Bowl trophy into this venue. And it was, I tell you, it was rowdy. It was crazy, and very early on in this business's life cycle, to have the Eagles show us that level of support was crazy.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do it. We were nothing then, and somehow they heard about us, and somehow they decided that the NFL had done a corporate deal at a very high level in London, and they appointed that the Eagles had a pub over here with some big pub company, right? And the Eagles fulfilled whatever obligation they had to fulfill with the pub company, and they're like, and now we're going to Passyunk. And they didn't have to do that, but shout out to the Eagles, man. The Eagles get it.
Very cool.
The Eagles are us, and they understand how important they are to the culture. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Love the story. Yep. Love it all. Keep them juices flowing, man. That's phenomenal.
Yep.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it. And obviously,
you.
if you're ever over again, you send me a message and make sure we get some time together. And when I'm home this summer, hopefully we can get some time together as well.
100%. 100%. JP, thank you. Good luck with everything moving forward. And you'll be hearing from us again. This story is just beginning for us.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, fellas. Thanks so much. Anything I can do in the future to help you out, you let me know. I had a lot of fun.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Get well.
Awesome,
Good
fellas.
luck.
Take care.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. So how cool was that?
You know what? I don't know how long we've been doing this Fans View. I mean,
almost 6 years.
This might have been the coolest night ever.
Yeah.
Just to hash over his story, the whole, and the roots coming from South Philly,
right?
To where he's at, and he is very well spoken. As Sue said, he's very well spoken. He's very educated. He's a smart man. He's a smart. He's a smart man. He's a smart businessman. He definitely gets the Emmy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, you're right, Joe Stinger. We're not live anymore, but.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, are we? We still live?
Yeah, we're still on.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But 100%. Hopefully this gets as many reviews as possible, because we need to put a mystery box together for JP.
There you go.
So
there we go.
I just think, you know what? I think the next time we do a batch of T-shirts, this Fans View, I think we need to put Passyunk on the back of the T-shirt.
There you go.
I think that, this show alone is just, just one of the things that, Lauren and Anthony had an event tonight. So I'm sure they'll check out the show, or she might even, had a few minutes to,
she's critiquing it.
Well, she missed a good one. So she missed a good one. Cause he was phenomenal. And, that type of story, I don't know who made the comment that it should be a movie. Joe Stater.
Yeah, Joe did. Yeah.
I mean, it pulls at your heartstrings, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Could you imagine, the wife's 7 months pregnant. He wants to quit a really good job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's probably pulling six figures somewhere. You know what I mean? And you're going to walk away from it to, as he calls it, a dive bar.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think he likes just saying that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And not just to do it here, you're moving halfway across the world.
Right. 3,000 miles away, right?
To do it.
Phenomenal.
On top of it.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Johnny, great job hooking JP up with us.
Well, thanks.
Reaching out to him. Probably the best email you ever sent.
Probably.
You know what I mean? To be able to make that connection and have him on, and the pregame was just as good as the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I was hoping he kept some of those stories alive for the show.
Yeah, he was great. He was great. Yeah. I think he enjoyed it probably more than we enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And we'll be talking about it for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's for sure.
You know what I mean? Yes, he did look a little tired. That's why
it is midnight. It's 12:30 out there.
Right. So. Exactly. Yeah. I could have very easily kept him longer, but I knew the time difference.
Yep,
you know what I mean? But
he doesn't even have a British accent.
He's got a little bit there. There's a little bit there, Sue.
That or the Italian, a little bit more of the Italian.
Yeah. Great guy.
Oh yeah.
Great guy. Good for him.
He talked about Kelsey being down to earth. He was very down to earth himself.
Yeah.
Coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, happy 4th of July.
Yes.
Happy Independence Day. Be safe. You know what I mean? And if you got pets, you need to move them indoors and get them in a quiet spot. Because I remember my shepherds from back in the day. Man, they hated fireworks.
Yeah.
They hated fireworks. You know what I mean? And I tried to take them down the basement and get them away from it as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yep, down to the basement.
It's it just scares the living hell out of them. But again, everybody that joined us tonight, and hopefully will join us in the future.
Yeah.
With maybe you didn't have time to join us live tonight, but check it out. Check it out. Facebook, YouTube. What'd you say, John? We're 6 years in.
Yep, 6 years in October.
6 years in October, and we've hit another milestone tonight. So I'm very happy that you were able to make this connection for us. So, all right, Johnny.
All right.
Be well. Have a great Thursday off. But you're used to having Thursdays off, so it's no different.
No, it's not. No.
I'll bet you're going to make some of those burgers with that awesome recipe.
Yeah, probably.
I know, probably. I'm going to be lurking around the corner. If I see the grill, if the grill gets lit, I'm knocking on the door.
Come on in. Come on in.
All right, brother. Be
All right.
well, everybody.
Sounds good. See you later.
Take care.